Today we've got my brother Chad here, and he works at a steel supplier, but they also do some fabrication, and he gets to run some pretty cool equipment, and he really didn't start with any experience and has learned a lot on the job. So I kind of thought you guys that watch this channel would like to get a little bit of insight into the industry if you're a hobbyist and were wondering about a career in metalworking or fabrication. So with that being said, you can kind of take it away, give us what, just a rundown on where you work and what you kind of do.
So before I started where I'm at now, I worked for a furniture company for 8 years and had no metal working experience. And I started where I work now. And my first 3 months, I was solely trained on the CNC plasma machine because they needed somebody to run that machine on the night shift. So that's what I started doing. And then once I went to nights, it evolved into learning other things that I had to do, different machines. But as far as did I have any experience when I started this job? Absolutely zero.
Yeah, so when you learn after the plasma table, you ended up learning how to run quite a few other things. You actually learned how to basically weld because you didn't really even know how to weld before.
Had zero experience welding. Maybe once or twice with a no name.
Yeah, with like a flux machine or something like that. But now you're pretty. I mean, I've seen your welds. Obviously, they're pretty good. They're better than what I can do.
They're good 50% of the time. I only send you the good pictures.
Yeah, that's true. But so you learn how to weld basically. You MIG and is that it? Just MIG?
I'm only doing MIG. Yeah.
Okay, so they basically got them going on MIG, and then you run the mill. You load stuff up in.
No, I don't.
You don't use.
I mean, I've used the mill a few times, just drilling holes or whatever. I haven't actually used it to make slots or anything like that.
Yeah.
I essentially use it as a drill press. But yeah, we do have mills.
And then
I use a drill line, which is basically it's about a 50-foot long table essentially that you can rest stuff on. You set it on the table, and it's an automated drill. We can load 8 different drill bits into it, various sizes, or we could put a mill bit in there if we were making slots in it. And there's a computer, and you program your part and where you want the holes on it, and it's accurate up to a 64th of an inch. So
that's pretty good. And then you've also got on the plasma table, he was telling me earlier, and we've got a picture of it. They've actually got so their plasma table is set up with a small plasma head, a large plasma head, and then you've got 4 oxyacetylene torches?
4 oxy head, yeah.
So they can cut out basically 4 things at a time on the table with 4 different oxyacetylene heads.
But they have to be the same.
Yeah, it's like a duplicator. It's all the same part, but they can do 4 of them at a time, which I thought was pretty cool. I didn't know that they really did that with oxyacetylene. I mean, I guess I kind of should have known that, but definitely was wild looking picture when he sent it to me. So you worked on some pretty big projects. I don't know if there's what your rules are as far as talking about them, but
I don't know my rules, but
but yeah, he sent me some pictures of some of the stuff he's worked on and then told me about some, and there's been some pretty
I could believe it. Stuff. We do a lot of work for refineries, making rolled plates for essentially their pipe patches. They patch the pipe with these, so we roll the plate to the radius of the pipe that it's going on. And then I actually have to use the plasma table to trim off 6 inches on either end of the rolled plate, because our roller keeps the first and last 6 inches of the plate, it remains flat. So the engineers, they always add on the extra foot for that trim. And a lot of times they'll have to do it with a bevel.
Yeah, so bevel, so they got somewhere for the weld to go.
The weld to go, yeah.
And then you had something with you were doing some big cones or something, weren't you?
Yeah, that was actually quite a while ago. That was probably spring or whatever. We roll. I had to cut these plates out, and they were, I don't even know what kind of shape you would describe it as. They were
almost like a coffee filter, probably.
Yeah, like a coffee filter, or maybe like a quarter of a rainbow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when you put that in the roller, it'll eventually roll its way to a cone shape, and then it gets welded down the seam.
Yeah. Wasn't there something? Well, you did a couple of hand railings, I know.
Oh, we do handrail.
Like, yeah, you guys do a lot of handrails.
Yeah. A lot of catwalks.
Which I know, like, you actually did the handrail where Joanna's mom works. I don't know if she worked there at the time, but where she works now, you did one of the railings there.
Yep.
And then you had something that was like for insulation, right? Or you welded those like
they're like a picture like corrugated metal, but on like a 1,000 times greater scale.
Yeah.
They're big, and we have to weld these there are little hooks on there for insulation to be sprayed onto, and we do that job once a year. It's whatever this company does.
Yeah, so
it's like heat.
Yeah, it's like a heat shield, and they basically weld something on it for the insulation to stick to when they insulate them. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That
fake it till you make it. That's right, dude.
But I mean, well, they knew.
I didn't tell them I didn't know anything.
They knew going in that he didn't have any experience, which that was one of the cool parts about.
They asked me if I could use a computer, and I said yeah, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the cool parts about like when he got hired. They knew going in that he was going to get on the job training on whatever it was they needed him to do. So there's no he didn't have to make it up or try and figure it out on his own or anything, because he was honest with them going in. You have any favorite projects you worked on, or anything that you like doing? I mean, I know it's work, so sometimes that's kind of a drag anyways, but
I don't mind doing any. There's stuff that I don't like doing for sure. As far as everything else, I don't mind it. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I mean,
I'm essentially doing the same thing, whether it's, 1.5-inch steel or 1/4-inch steel. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I put it on the table, and I change my consumables to whatever I'm cutting, and I program in the computer, and I hit go. I could cut the same thing out on 1.5 inch as 1/4 inch, and it's the same process.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Except for the consumables. So 1.5 inch is a lot louder.
Well, yeah, I would imagine. Probably more sparks. So I've got, he sent me some pictures and stuff I loaded up in here that we can we'll look at them. It's going to go to a split screen. So we'll look at them, and then he can kind of explain what's going on if they need an explanation. So we'll switch over to that. So what do you got going on here? It looks like diamond plate.
Yeah, so that's 2 sheets of, I believe, 4 by 16 foot, and if I remember this, it was 3/16.
Oh, we didn't go over how big your plasma table is. It's a big plasma table.
Well, you'll see the picture I sent you.
Yeah, there's a picture coming up, but I just realized we never mentioned that.
We'll go over that when we get to that picture.
That's just a shot of
that was
the head.
Yeah,
nice looking picture.
I think that was cut in stainless there. So that is the that's oxyacetylene. That's not plasma. That's 2.5-inch plate, 51670. Which is just, if you don't know, it's a better grade of regular hot roll. 836 is your standard.
Yeah.
Whatever. And these are just, I had to cut out 2 rings, but I cannot, so the plasma machine will only cut up to 2-inch.
Okay, so you had to switch over.
So I had to use anything over 2-inch. I got to use the oxyacetylene, which is very slow. We're cutting at 2.5-inch. You're probably cutting at 8 inches a minute. Roughly, maybe 9.
Hey, it's still faster than an angle grinder. Not that you'd be doing circles with an angle grinder, I guess, but
and then as you can see here, we don't always use full sheets or full. We have, you can see in the background of that picture, there's cutoffs of that's all stacks of just cut off material. So that's one nice thing. We don't have to pull a fresh sheet or.
And I'm assuming in this picture, you're probably using this outer ring, and then that inner circle was basically waste that was going to probably end up in that pile.
No, I threw that in the scrap.
Oh, it's too small.
That's it, too small.
So you go ahead with that.
So this is the 4 oxyacetylene torches that they can be run at the same time. However, I have never done that. We don't really have the need for that. And on the, you can see what number that one, on number 4 there, which is your farthest one to the right.
It'll be this one over here.
That one also has the small plasma head on it. That's what that is. Yeah. Right behind that torch, there is a small plasma head that I have to use that one to cut corrugated, or not corrugated, expanded metal, any sort of mesh or whatever. I have to use that. Or a lot of times we do structural tees and they have to have slots cut out in them, but the large torch is too big. I can't get close enough to the flange.
Oh, okay.
So I have to use the small one. And that's a totally different thing to set up, you know, and I don't use it often. And when I do, I have a notebook at work that I wrote notes down in, and I have to take my notebook out and look just to make sure that I got everything right. But I haven't had a problem.
So yeah, this thing, like you said earlier, this thing will cut 4 things at a time, but they all have to be the same program basically. So it can cut 4 identical things at the same time. It can't cut independently. So that can speed up any larger orders, I would assume, is when you would do that.
Like I said, I've never had to do it. It's just something that we have the capability to do, but.
And this is on the same plasma table,
yep.
Right? This just kind of goes out of the way when you're
my plasma head is right on the right side
here.
Of the screen there.
So the larger plasma head's back here.
So I actually have to move when I have to use the small one. I have to take that one all the way over to the right and I have to disable it and park it over there.
So it goes off the table on the other end.
Because my joystick will move. If I can enable all those at the same time, and my joystick will actually move them all.
Okay.
If I don't disable.
So this one kind of docks on the left. The other one will dock on the right if you need to use this one.
Well, that's like where those 4 are at. That's home.
Okay.
That's right behind my computer, which is right there.
Yeah.
Which is off there. You see they're all off the table.
Yeah, they're not on over the table. But this plasma goes all the way to the other side.
It actually hangs over the edge of the table because there's times where I have to cut stuff off the table.
Okay. All right.
I have to split large pipe.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit underneath the. You can see it doesn't fit underneath the.
Right. What do they call it?
You know, I've had to split.
Gantry? Is that what they call it?
Well, it's like 20-inch pipe.
Yeah.
And obviously that ain't gonna fit underneath there.
Right.
So you got to do it off the table. This is just my little control center. Everything I got to do.
Is this where you would like load what you're cutting into?
No, so there's actually another computer which is right behind this one.
Okay.
So if you were to 180 this picture, there'd be another computer with my program that I use. It's called ProNest. And I can make my nest and make my plate and parts and put it all on there. And then I can actually send it to this computer and do it from there.
Okay.
But I can also cut anything that I want. I can program it myself through this computer. It's just faster to do it than the other one.
And will this thing let you, if you wanted to, like, could you free cut, like, can you cut with, like, the joystick?
Yeah, I hit that green button on the top left.
This one here?
Right there, and then my joystick is on the top right.
Oh, okay.
If I hit that green button, it'll start the plasma, and I just hold it whichever way I want to go. However, if I have a bunch of drop on the table that I need to cut up, I got to make sure that my consumables that I have in there are rated for that thickness. You know, if I have 1/4 inch on the table that I need to cut up and I have 1/2 inch consumables in there, I can cut the 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
But if I have like 1.5 inches on the table and I got 1/4 inch consumables, that's gonna work. That is 1.5 or 1.25 plate.
And that's the larger.
That's the main torch that I use. I'd say 97% of the time. That's what I'm using.
And then this is where it goes off. It can go off the edge of the table. Yeah, so it can go
over the table there. And we have a couple little jigs made to, you know, it's a couple beams that are welded, and then you can set your pipe in it so it doesn't roll around or whatever. Yeah. And then the table actually has grounds just like your welder would that I can clamp on
to the end.
Because you got to be grounded.
Yeah, and then this is the video, which I think the sound's kind of turned off, which we'll probably leave it because I don't know how loud it's going to be.
And so this is a 20-foot beam that I'm essentially making 2 structural tees out of. And I can program the machine to run straight down, center to center on either end, the whole length of the beam. And then it'll cut 60 inches. It'll stop. It'll move forward a half an inch and then cut another 60 inches and do that.
That's what in the second here, when it, at the end of this video clip, when it stops cutting and lifts right here and then goes back down, it starts cutting again and it'll continue for another 60.
That's just so the beam doesn't separate and then you'll be off by the time you get to the end. You just take a grinder with a cutoff wheel and finish it off. But that's a lot of work. The tees, I do a lot of that. I do a lot of splitting beams for making structural tees, and each beam is different. You got 1/4 inch webs, you got 1/2 inch webs.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see, but this is an I-beam, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the table's filthy, so that's a winner.
Well, it's just hard to see what it could almost be just like
that's actually a S beam instead of a W beam, if you know what that is. W beam is more of like an H, like a true H.
Yeah.
An S beam has where it like.
Oh, okay. And then that's basically the power unit.
That's the power unit for the table.
480.
Uh-huh.
I bet the price tag on that wasn't cheap. I guarantee that. No,
here's the whole table, which is about 44 foot long, and it's about 10 foot wide. I have had 2 8x20s on there at the same time.
Yeah, so that's a big table. How do you clean those off, or do you just pull them out?
We just make new ones.
Right.
I just cut out new ones.
I didn't know if there was a way, like when you have this all built up, if there's something that.
No, we just take the crane, which you see the crane right above the table there,
right over here.
That clamp. I meant to take a picture of the clamps and stuff because. It's wild. Like this one. So that clamp is a bigger clamp. That's for like 1 inch plus 1 inch to 1.5 inch plate, I think.
Yeah.
There's like the whole way there's sections on the table and they're bolted down. You might be able to see the bolts on the sides of on like the rails there.
Yeah.
They're held down by like flats. We take those off, and essentially each one of those sections should lift right out of there. However, this table's very, very dirty.
So you can see the bolts running down the edge there. I think, is that a seam there?
Yeah. There's I don't know, 10 different sections all the way down. But we pre-make those sections outside of there and drop them right in.
Yeah, so they're ready to go.
We'll take this out and then have a new one and just drop it in.
And that's obviously
that's
all cut off. Drop piles.
That's all drop on the wall. A lot of the stuff on the wall, that's a lot of thinner stuff that you can carry by hand.
Yeah.
The stuff on the right side is all
big. Yeah, you can sell some of this stuff over here.
You're talking 1 inch or bigger, like smaller pieces.
That's just kind of your stock room.
That's my area. Whenever I need to get plates or whatever, this rack is still drop off, but they're bigger pieces of drop off.
Oh, okay. So that's.
It might have been we didn't have anything, so I had to go grab an 8x20 at the other end of the building, bring it down, cut what I needed, and then I put it back in these racks. And then like that little rack is all our stainless on the right side or left side. I mean.
Oh, over here.
That on the right side is actually all drop. That's 2.5 inch drop. It got all messed up from a job we did.
So that was the last one. Let's switch back over. But anyways, I hope that was informational and just shows that as long as you can, do a little legwork and, find the right people to talk to, if you don't have any experience, you could land yourself something where you do get some on-the-job training. As you heard, his main job is to run the plasma table. However, he has learned to weld and run some other equipment along the way. And, that's kind of a cool way to do it when you're making money and learning how to do it at the same time. I know, like any job, there's obviously drawbacks. Like I know he doesn't really like working nights and stuff like that.
Nope.
But it definitely is possible to get yourself somewhere that you can really learn some skills. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and it answered some questions and gave you a little bit of insight into what working at a supply house or fabrication shop is like, especially one with some big equipment.